take your wooden cutting board out and give it a good inspection. It might be time to replace it, especially if it has a lot of deep scratches and gouges. If it seems a little dry and worn out, means that your cutting board could harbor a lot of bacteria. It's flaking off a lot of that wood into your cooking potentially. So cutting boards take a little bit of care to make them last a long time. There's a swap you can make that can last you longer and might be a more effective cutting surface for you. So sorry, old friend, you've served me well, but because of a little neglect, I need to replace you. This is an end grain cutting board, so these are becoming way more popular. What's different about these is most cutting boards have horizontal wood laid together, so the fibers are running the length of the cutting board, so you're cutting into them every time you use your knife. An end grain cutting board is a lot different. Those fibers are now vertical, so when you cut down into them, they kind of squeeze back together. Sometimes it's called a self-healing factor. It's not necessarily that, but the fibers are aligned with the blade, so they have little microscopic grooves when you get down in there that your knife can go into. So these cutting boards can look a little funky, but I like the design, and you can find these in a variety of colors, materials. They're all unique. The times I've seen the end grain cutting boards, they are all different. So you might need to hunt a little bit for one that you like, maybe a consistent color, consistent tone, but they're all great. You can't really go wrong. Now these can be expensive, especially if you want a large cutting board. So if you're looking to save money, what I recommend is just find a small version. See how you like it, see how it's working with your cooking style, and go with that. I found this one at Target. It was pretty affordable, looks really nice, but you can tell that the blocks are oriented where you can see all the grooves in the fibers actually sticking up when traditionally they ran the length of the cutting board. I actually need to wash these, so the care for these is really simple. Just some soap and water after each use. Warm water. Got my favorite sponge here. Just give it a good scrub. Doesn't take much. Just remember, even for these end grain cutting boards, don't soak them. Wood can absorb a lot of moisture and warp and distort. So you want to keep this in good shape. So just a light rinse, wash, soap and water is all you need. Oh, what a beautiful cutting board. Oh, it's a hefty one, this one. Give it a good dry. Now, depending on your use, how many times you're washing it, what you're cutting on it, you will need to rehydrate this wood. Pick up some mineral oil. It's tasteless, colorless, odorless. It's what you use to treat your wooden cutting boards. Just a little bit, and just rub it on. Especially if you get a brand new cutting board, I would pick up some mineral oil if you don't have some already. Wash it good, dry it really well, and then apply some mineral oil. You can let this sit overnight, and then it's fine to just go ahead and use right away. So when you notice that your cutting board's looking a little dry, go ahead, clean your cutting board, reach for some mineral oil, and go ahead and treat it. I like to do both sides, even though this cutting board, you really don't use the bottom of it. It's just designed to use the top, but you want to keep it from warping. You want it to keep it from drying out, so kind of just go all around, even on the surfaces you're not cutting on. Easy as that. Treated, ready to go. You could use it right away, but I usually like to let it seep in a little bit, wipe off any excess. You don't want any pools of the mineral oil on there. And this cutting board is good to go. The end grain's gonna be a lot friendlier on your knives. It won't let them dull too quickly because of those fibers. It kind of will nestle through those fibers, keeping the edge of your blade really sharp. So not only will it not leave marks as much, but it's better for your knives as well. And the other big benefit of an edge grain wooden cutting board, it resists bacteria. Since those fibers fuse back together, bacteria doesn't have a place to hide, and especially if you're cleaning it well after each use, it's gonna be a safe, long-lasting cutting board to use. Barely any marks. I know this is a brand new cutting board, but treating it with that mineral oil will keep it hydrated so that things can, kind of go back together after you cut into them. So that's another reason why you want to make sure you're taking care of your cutting board. You don't need to do the mineral oil treatment after every use all the time. Just keep an eye on the condition of your cutting board. If it starts looking a little dry, that's usually a good indicator. Just give it a good wipe. Or maybe you're prepping a lot in a week, you can go ahead and treat it with some mineral oil. One little handy tip I do with my cutting boards, so you want a really stable surface, and this one's a little wobbly. Some cutting boards come with little grippy feet to keep it from sliding. Here's what I do. I grab a small kitchen towel. You can do this with paper towels, but I like something that's reusable. Small kitchen towel, clean one preferably. Get it wet, and I lay it down underneath. This is just my quick go-to. You can also find non-slip mats for underneath cutting boards, little grippy mats. You can just put that underneath, but now you have a super stable base that won't slip and slide, making it a ton safer for you to cut. So there's a little bit of back and forth on if you can cut meat on a wooden cutting board. If you're properly caring for it, go ahead and cut meat. My technique is I'll go ahead and chop up all my produce on my cutting board. I'll just go ahead and wipe it off really quick and then process my proteins and then give it a good wash. If you are processing proteins on your cutting board, I'd recommend that you wash it kind of right away. You don't want it to sit there for too long after you're done. But yeah, go ahead, use your cutting board for all your produce and then your meats. You want to avoid cross-contamination for sure. And you can do that all on wood. You don't need plastic. If you are really concerned, what you could do, if you are able to, pick up 2 cutting boards. Have your produce cutting board and have your meat cutting board. So have 2 small ones, and there you go. Then you know for sure, like, this is my meat cutting board, this is my produce cutting board. If you are limited on space, you can do both on one. I would just be extra careful. Practice hygiene in the kitchen and you'll have no worries. And remember, wood is antibacterial if properly cared for and properly used. Now, I'm guilty of reaching for a plastic cutting board. It seems like this is a great option because you can throw it in the dishwasher, many of them. You can really clean this with some hot water and soap, but all those grooves are opportunities for bacteria to just fester, and that plastic, a lot of people are concerned about plastics in their food, so it might be time to ditch those plastic cutting boards and just reach for a good quality wooden cutting board. And if you are wanting to pick up a new wooden cutting board, look for one that's end grain. These come in many different brands and varieties, so check out the different styles and the sizes and pick one that's right for you.